The custom of making New Year's resolutions has been around for thousands of years, but it hasn't always looked the way it does today. I read that the ancient Babylonians were the first people to make New Year's resolutions. That was some 4,000 years ago. They were also the first to hold recorded celebrations in honour of the New Year. Though for them, the New Year didn't start in January, but it was in mid-March when the crops were planted. And that sort of makes sense, doesn't it? During their massive 12-day religious festival known as Akitu, the Babylonians crowned a new king or reaffirmed their loyalty to the reigning king. And they also made promises to the gods. They made promises to repay their debts and to return any objects that they'd borrowed. And now those promises are considered the forerunners of today's New Year's resolutions. Now, if the Babylonians kept their words, their pagan gods would bestow favours on them. They'd make it a really good coming year. And if they didn't fulfil their New Year's resolutions, they'd fall foul of the gods. They were out of their favour, and no one wanted to be in that place, did they? Okay, what about you? If you're like me, you probably made some New Year's resolutions as well. Maybe it was to repay debts like the pagan gods. I don't know. Anyway, today in my once a month Build a Business Not a Job podcast, when I chat with Mark Creedon, we're going to talk about how to restore some of your New Year's resolutions that may have already gone by the wayside. Now, once a month I have a chat with Mark, and it's aimed in particular at business owners, professionals and people who want to go into business. But today's show really is for you wherever you are in your career, even if you're still learning and studying. The reason is we all make resolutions, we all make plans, and for most of us, they don't all work out. So welcome to today's episode of the Michael Yardney podcast.
Welcome to the Michael Yardney podcast, where twice each week you will learn a number of new ideas regarding success, property investment and money in around 30 minutes. Our show is brought to you by Metropole, who specialise in helping you grow, protect and pass on your wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. Now here's your host, Michael Yardney, Australia's most trusted property commentator who has once again been voted Australia's leading property investment advisor. That's the fifth time he's won a similar award in the last 7 years.
I bet you made some New Year's resolutions. Most of us did. They're easy to make at the end of the year. But now, a few weeks into the new year, I bet some of those resolutions are in disarray, some are compromised, some are probably even abandoned. So how do you stick to your resolutions? How do you make sure that this is going to be a better year, a better decade? So let's have a talk about resolutions, determinations, how we can stick with them, with the founder of Business Accelerator Mastermind and my business partner, and in fact my business coach, Mark Creedon. Welcome, Mark.
Hello, Michael. Good to be here.
Now, let's be blunt. We've actually recorded this show before the end of the year because you're taking a vacation. I am as well. It's one of the things we've learned from coaching people about businesses, that you've got to have a balance in life. But if we know what's happened in the past, the same's going to happen to this year, that some of the resolutions will be left behind.
Yeah, they will be, Michael. In fact, the vast majority of resolutions will be made, and by mid-January will be forgotten, unfortunately.
So, Mark, I know in the past my New Year's resolutions have disappeared, especially the ones about dieting and eating, and others I've actually stuck to, I've adhered, and they've made a change in my life. So let's go through some strategies for people listening to this today about how they can rescue their resolutions.
Yeah, Michael, it's a good term, and I know when you and I spoke about recording this, we spoke about how it is that you rescue the New Year's resolutions that you make, because we know that at the time you make them, you have the very best of intentions, but what happens by mid-January is most of them are falling apart. So I think that there's a number of reasons, but the number one reason that springs to mind for me is that what happens is at the time we make the resolution, we don't actually allocate time to implement that. So we know that implementation and follow through is king. So it's great to have the resolution, but you can't actually achieve the resolution if you don't set time aside for it. So what happens is we say, well, we're going to commit doing, half an hour of exercise, or we're going to write that book, or whatever it might be that we're going to do, but we don't allocate time for it. And what we do when we're sort of then questioned about, why didn't we follow through with that resolution? The stock standard answer is, I just didn't have time. So something's got to give. We've got to find time. You've got to allocate time. Maybe you've got to get rid of something else. Maybe you've got to move something else off your list, and then maybe you've got to get rid of those things so you can allocate the time for those new resolutions.
So you need a to-do list, but you also need a to-don't list. And you've actually, as you correctly say, got to get rid of some things, because if you're like me, your day's completely full anyway, so something's got to give. So the first strategy is allocate time. Number 2, Mark.
Michael, number 2 is that, and this is, I see this all the time, it's that priorities should govern your schedule. Your schedule shouldn't govern your priorities. So what happens is, the vast majority of business owners that you and I know, they operate like workers. So we often talk about, Michael, with different levels of business, people bringing a level 2 or a level 1 thinking, trying to take that into, or a level 1 thinking, trying to take that into a level 2 or level 3 business, and it won't work. So in other words, if you are thinking like an employee, like a worker, and you're not thinking like the boss, so what you should be doing is, when you've allocated time, so you've dedicated time, you've done the list of things that you're going to start doing, stop doing, and keep doing in the new year, then you've allocated time for your New Year's resolutions. Don't let that schedule be hijacked. Don't let people, either people who work for you, time, interrupt your time, emails, phone calls, whatever it might be. Don't let that interrupt you. You should be in control of time, not it being in control of you.
Well, when I thought about the word resolutions, it actually means that you've got to have resolve, don't you? I guess that's where the term came from. You've really got to decide what's important to you, what matters to you.
Yeah, you do. One of the things on the point of scheduling, Michael, is, and you will have heard this term lots of times, when you speak to business owners and you say, how are things going? I've just spent the last week firefighting. So the reason that they're firefighting is because they're letting their schedule be controlled by other things. I often say that your email inbox is just a list of somebody else's priorities. So if you can get in control of your schedule, allocate dedicated time for your resolutions, and the part that you've just tapped into that's really important in that is actually having the resolve. Only you can decide what matters to you. Don't bother making resolutions to appease other people. You need to swim in your lane. You need to work out what's important to you, and you need to be brutally honest with yourself about what it is that you really want to achieve. Set resolutions that are going to get you there, commit the time, and then you'll make it happen.
I think that's really important. You've got to be number 1. Sure, family and friends are important also, but too many of us try to impress people who don't really care about what we're on about anyway. Okay, as we're working through what we can do to maintain our resolutions, to keep them, to make them work for us, what else, other suggestions have you got?
Well, I think, Michael, the one thing that you've got to remember is that anything that you resolve to do is going to take some resources. So whatever it is, whatever goal you set, whatever activity you want to embark on, whatever thing you want to change within your business or your personal life, it's actually going to take some resources. So, for you decided to look after your health better. You had to go and get a piece of exercise equipment. I decided to look after my health better. I've joined a gym. But we have to actually get some resources behind us. And if you're going to be really serious about a resolution, you've actually got to invest in it. Now, maybe that investment is in a piece of equipment. Maybe it's in some software. Maybe, Michael, it's in people, so that people in your business can take over some of the tasks. You remember we said at the outset that, something's got to give. So maybe you've got to move some things to other people for them to do, so you can focus on your resolutions. So you have to invest in it. And I think one of the things that holds people back is what I call limited resource thinking. So I'll often talk to business owners and entrepreneurs, and they go, "Hey, Mark, I'd love to do that, but I can't because I don't have the right people, or I don't have the right software, or I don't have the right equipment, or I don't have the time or the money." If you're truly committed to it, if it matters to you, if you've decided to proceed with it, you'll find the resources, but you've actually got to go about finding them, implementing it, and then making it happen, Michael.
Well, I think if you do invest the time, effort, money in getting resources, it is likely to motivate you more to actually keep going, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think you've also probably got to have realistic expectations rather than saying this is what I want to do by the end of the year or the end of the month. Maybe you should have shorter timeframes for your goals.
Well, that's right. And so certainly in Mastermind, Michael, we work in a number of different timeframes. So we certainly talk in where do you want to be in 3 years? That's a very small part of it. We focus on the 12-month goals. We break it down into 90-day plans, and then into weekly activities. And really on a daily basis, you should be stepping toward achieving your goal. See, one of the things that happens with people when they make resolutions, they make a goal, is that they become overwhelmed because it's too big. So I was actually talking to a mastermind member yesterday, and they were saying they know exactly where their business wants to be in 2 years' time, but it's such a big task. There's so much to do. And in fact, they've actually had this overarching plan for about 6 months now, but they've done nothing on it. And the reason they've done nothing on it is because it's such a big project. So all we did was go, that's fine. All we're going to do is going to break it down. And every day we're going to take one little action which steps us toward that ultimate plan. Now, if we did that one little step every day, then at the end of a 5-day week, we're 5 steps closer. At the end of the month, we're 20 steps closer, et cetera, et cetera. So it's about breaking it down into bite-sized chunks and working every day to achieve something which takes you towards your goal, Michael.
Well, I like when you first started being my business coach over a decade ago, how you simplified things. So rather than a multi-page business plan, it's a one-page business plan rather than multiple page documents that were just overwhelming. You broke it down to simplistic models. And I know they're all in the hub for our mastermind members to have as an amazing resource kit. So same principle as you're saying, just break it down to bite-sized chunks that you can handle. Otherwise, it's just too overwhelming. Any other ideas you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, one of the big things is that, and you know that you've achieved incredible success. You have a very successful business. You have a multi-million-dollar national business. But throughout that time, you've actually needed, although you've been very self-motivated, you've also needed somebody to motivate you. And so, I mean, that's how you and I first got to know each other, of course. So I think one of the important things is to get people around you. You actually, it's very difficult to sort of, create that structure for yourself. So if you can get a broad brush structure put together, and then you can get somebody to work with you, so whether it's a coach, whether it's a mastermind group, whether it's a like-minded friend, somebody who actually encourages you but also holds you accountable, because someone's going to encourage you, come on, you can get on, you can do this, you've set this. But the other thing is just that accountability, because that's where the resolutions slip away. See, they slip away in January, and then you don't mention it to anybody, and then somebody in April or May says, oh, how did you go with that thing that you were planning on doing? It's long gone by then. If you've got an unreasonable friend, which is a coach or a mentor or a mastermind group, then you'll find that they will actually motivate you, they will support you, they'll encourage you, but more importantly, they'll actually hold you accountable.
Well, as you said, that's one of your roles for me today still, and for the directors of Metropole, and in fact for the members of Business Accelerator Mastermind, because it's not just for the resolutions at the beginning of the year, it's for all the resolutions I make, our team makes, and all the business owners who are part of Business Accelerator Mastermind make during the year. So I know you have a number of systems to keep them accountable. Some are electronic, some are personal, and I think you need that personal interaction as well. Diaries and checklists and to-do lists aren't the same as having that unreasonable friend, because often just the concept of a mastermind, two people thinking together about the same thing, brings up a different result, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And the other thing, Michael, it's you don't mean to, but it's very easy to make excuses for you, to yourself. And in some ways, when you make those excuses to yourself, you can actually be very forgiving of yourself, whereas somebody external to you will be less forgiving. And that's kind of why I use the term unreasonable friend, which I think is a relationship that you and I have built up over the years as well.
So, Mark, you've been my business coach for over a decade, and since almost 2 decades now, I've had business coaches. Is one of the reasons that my business has become so successful. And over time, I've asked you to coach our other directors of Metropole. And as I saw clients that I'd referred to you, how they did so well, that I decided this is so good, I want to have part of this business. And we became business partners in Business Accelerator Mastermind that helps our clients build a business, not a job, without compromising their life, without killing themselves in the process. It's given them the opportunity to have the choices in life, the freedom that they want. Some people are saying, oh, Michael, all you're doing is promoting your services here. But I genuinely believe it's so valuable that I'd like you for just a moment, before we talk a bit more about how to make this the best year ever and keep your resolutions, tell us a little bit about why Business Accelerator Mastermind, Mark, is different to other coaching programs.
Well, Michael, there's two aspects to that. I think it's about what it does and how it does it, but I think it's also about how it came about. So Mastermind came about and my coaching came about from me as a young man believing that the only way that I could achieve success in business, and I've been self-employed for a very, very long time. I often say I'm sort of unemployable these days, but it was by working hard. And so that's what I did. I worked hard, and I worked that hard that, it caused significant issues in my life, lost my first marriage, and Michael, it very nearly killed me. And so I realized that there had to be a better way. So I spent lots of time, I spent a number of years, a lot of money trying to find ways that I could systemize things, that I could create process so that I could actually develop a business and not just a job. Because I look back on it and I realized that I was on the mouse wheel. I was working 80-hour weeks, just ridiculous things that I was doing. But really, I never really had a business. I always just had a job because the minute I stopped working, the business stopped working as well. And so that's how the coaching came about. And as a result of that, Michael, we developed the Mastermind program, which really took the coaching concept that I delivered on a one-on-one basis and simplified it down even further. So where Mastermind differs, I think, from a lot of other coaching programs is that it's a nice mix between one-on-one coaching and group coaching. So you get access to me on a one-on-one basis as a part of Mastermind, and you get access to my experience, and of course you get access to you and your vast experience and knowledge. But you also get access to the group. So I think it was Napoleon Hill that said, the concept of a mastermind is it is a true mastermind, is a number of minds who together are more powerful than a single mind. So that's what really brought Mastermind about. It's the mix between group and one-on-one. We get lots of support. And what's really interesting, we're talking about accountability before. What we see with Mastermind members is when they actually put their resolutions or their goals out to the group and make public accountability, not only do Caroline as a part of the Mastermind team keep them accountable, interestingly, so do all the other Mastermind members, and they celebrate each other's success, which really makes it a very rewarding group to be a part of.
Well, one of the issues with business owners is their isolation. So that's one of the great benefits as well. By the way, if you're interested in finding out more about it, about making this your best year ever by getting my business coach to be your business coach, go to metropolmastermind.com.au. There'll be a link in the show notes so you can find out all about this. And Mark, I'm going to put you on the spot. If somebody wants to actually find out more about it, are you prepared to give them 10 minutes, 15 minutes of your time one-on-one to have a chat with them?
Of course I am. What we are about at Mastermind, Michael, what drives us is actually seeing people achieve their goals. So I'm very happy to spend that time. And I'm pretty sure in that 10 or 15 minutes, we could find some things that they could change pretty quickly, by the way.
That's great. So metropolmastermind.com.au. We're working through the ways of sticking to your New Year's resolutions. And by the way, if you're listening to this podcast and it's not the beginning of the year, it isn't just about New Year's resolutions, is it, Mark? It's about just sticking to what your aims, your goals, your plans are anyway.
No, Michael, we could record this and we could call it New Year's resolutions. We could call it Valentine's Day, Easter, end of financial year, Halloween. The problem is that people put themselves under a lot of pressure. So they think, right, it's a new year. I've made all these mistakes last year. So now I'm going to fix everything in the new year. And so that's why it's really relevant around New Year. But it absolutely applies across the year. People looking to make goals in their business. If you follow these principles, then these principles will work any time of the year for any goals that you're doing in the business.
I think one of the challenges I've had in the past is wanting to change too much too quickly.
Yeah, it's interesting. And when people join the program, we spend a session with them where we plan out their first 90 days. And in that 90-day session, I do two things. One, I look for some quick wins for them. And the other thing I do is I help them to make patience their friend. Because if you're looking, it's like, people who say have rapid weight loss. They go on this crash diet, rapid weight loss, and then you see them a month later or 2 months later, and a lot of the weight's back on. So the reason for that is that rapid change that brings about immediate results is great, but it's probably not sustainable. So what you really need to do is build up to that change. And we spoke before about doing something every day that leads you toward that goal. That's about that incremental change. And Michael, you and I often talk about morning routines, and I'm a very, very big person for morning routine. Across winter, I actually let my morning routine slip a little bit. So instead of just going, right, well, I'm going to go back to my immediate morning routine, I actually went through the process of building up to that, going back to that original position. So in other words, I always just get up at 5:30 in the morning. Next thing I found myself, I was, dragging myself out of bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. So instead of going, right, well, as from tonight, I'm going to change it instantly, I went, well, I'm going to do tomorrow, I'm going to get up at 6:30. Then next week, I'm going to get up at 6. Then the week after, I'm going to get up at 5:30 again. And I'm going to reduce the time, the earlier to bed time as well. So bringing about building up that change, slowly getting things changing, what it will do is it will make it much more sustainable across a longer period of time.
Somebody's going to be listening to this, Mark, and saying, it's too late. It's already a few weeks into the year, or a few months if they're listening to this later on. I just wait. I'll leave it till next year.
Yeah. Well, look, you could do that, but my answer to that is, if you're listening to this in March, what you want to waste the next 9 months, as opposed to grabbing it. All of these principles, as we said before, they apply at any time of the year. The best time to have done this was yesterday. The second best time is today. It doesn't matter if you've made resolutions and you've let them slip. That's fine. Pick one resolution that you've made, and tomorrow go through the process of avoiding or using these little rescue steps that we've spoken about in this interview, Michael, and apply them to just one part of the resolution. Now, if it's a big resolution, break it into chunks. One of the things we do in Mastermind, we use a document that and you've used called the Sprint Planner. And in the Sprint Planner, it's about breaking everything, every goal that you've got, every plan in your business into nice little bite-sized pieces. So it's not too late. Pick one resolution that you think you've let slip by, pick one chunk of that resolution and do that tomorrow. And you know what will happen is there's a whole bunch of neuropsychology behind how this works, but you'll feel better because you've made this one little step. And then the next day you make another step, you'll feel even better. And so it layers. And the better you feel about it, the more likely you are to continue to commit to it, and then you'll enjoy the rewards of it. Don't wait. It's never too late.
And I'd like to throw in one last tip, and that's don't try and do it on your own. First of all, tell other people about your resolutions, because when you do make it public, you're more likely to stick them. But I've just found that under the pressure of the daily life routines, again, or under stress, you feel your time's out of your control. You're not going to do it. So it's really, really hard to do it on your own. And that's why you need an unreasonable friend, a coach, a mentor, somebody to hold you accountable. That's why people have personal trainers. If you go to the gym on your own and you don't have a trainer, you're more likely not to get up. If you don't make the commitment to spend the money on the trainer, you're not likely to do the exercise. If you don't have a group of friends you're going to ride a bike with, it's a bit harder to get up in the morning if you're just going to do it on your own.
Well, Michael, I joined this gym that didn't have trainers attached to it. It was one of these 24-hour gyms I could go, and I thought that'll be great because I can go anytime that suits me. And it worked really well. I paid, $1,000, and I think I went twice. When I changed my mind and went to a gym that actually had a trainer, and I go to classes, and you and I often talk either as I'm just going in or heading out, and there's a trainer there, and I'm accountable. I actually really like them. If I don't turn up, they ring me. So there's lots of accountability, and 100%. Like even as a coach, Michael, I've always had coaches. You mentor me, and there's oftentimes you'll shoot me a quick text or a quick message. Hey, can I just mentor you for a second? Can I coach you on something for a second? So it's just too hard to do it on your own. And I think that what happens is that, we get under stress, we get under pressure, resolve weakens. And then before we know it, all of these great plans that we've had at the beginning of the year have just sort of fallen to dust. Having somebody to support you, to keep you accountable is vitally important. That's what's actually going to help you to get there, Michael.
Well, we've gone through a list of ways that you can keep your resolutions, whether they're New Year's resolutions or just your goals to move forward and make this a great year. May I make a shameless plug and suggest that if you really do want to make this the best year ever, don't be impertinent enough to think you can do it on your own, because none of us can. Consider getting Mark Creedon on your side. Go to Business Accelerator Mastermind's website at metropolmastermind.com.au. Find out what it's about. You've probably got time at this time of the year to watch a little bit of the videos about Mark. You can read some of the blogs, get an idea of what he's like. And maybe it wouldn't be a bad idea just having that 10-minute chat. You can leave your details there and find out if Business Accelerator Mastermind is for you. Mark, thanks for your time, and look forward to our next regular chat in these Build a Business, Not a Job podcasts.
Yeah, it's always good fun, Michael.
Well, I hope you've got some benefit from today's show and some ideas how to resurrect some of those but lost New Year's resolutions. And if you got some benefit from it, please join me in my quest to make as many people successful as possible by sharing the episode with somebody. Tell them about it. And if you really loved it, tell the world about it by leaving a review on iTunes or Google Play or Stitcher, wherever you listen to this, Spotify. I recently got a great review from Taz Carl, who said, always informative, very good listening to your regular show. We never stop learning. Now, if you leave a review and I read it out, like I did for Taz Carl, just email me, michael@metropole.com.au, and I'd love to gift you one of my books as a way of saying thank you. Now, in between the shows that I regularly produce twice a week, over summer I've done them 3 times a week, haven't I, to help give you some more information over the holiday season. But in between the twice a week shows, you can catch up with me on social media. Michael Yardney, just look out for it. And recently I've been more active on Instagram, so why not contact me there as well? And why not subscribe to my daily property update at propertyupdate.com.au. And I'll be back again real soon to have a chat with you on the regular Michael Yardney podcast. In the meantime, have a great week. Make it a great week.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Michael Yardney podcast, which was brought to you by Metropole, who help their clients grow, protect, and pass on their wealth through strategic property and wealth advice. If you like what you heard and don't already subscribe, you'll find us on iTunes or on your favorite Android app as the Michael Yardney podcast. Watch out for our next show, which comes to you twice a week, and you'll learn some new ideas about property investment, success, and money in around 30 minutes. To get more of Michael's thoughts, go across to www.propertyupdate.com.au and sign up for his daily morning briefing, and you'll hear from not only Michael but a group of leading property success and money experts. And just a reminder that the information you heard in this show today is general educational advice and not specific investment advice, as we don't know your personal circumstances. If you're looking for specific advice, why not ask the team at Metropole to help you?